Welcome to the JPC step topo video. JPC was asking, how do you build a step topo? And of course, Glenn Woodward comes up with a method. Here's a house that I have right here, F6, and I'm going to add a terrain to this thing. Okay, add a terrain to it. Build terrain. Create terrain perimeter. There it is right there. Now, where's that terrain perimeter? What I always like to do is I like to take my terrain perimeter and set it at not an auto-calculate, but 0. That means all the topo lines are relative to the finished floor of the house, 0. It's just the way I do it. Glenn Woodward and I had a bit of a discussion about this, and he doesn't like that way as much. He thinks it's better to go ahead and say, well, if this house is 4 foot above sea level, what you do is you come over here and you go 48, so it's 4 foot above, and now the house is 4 foot above sea level. Now, if you start changing it, you put your topo lines in there and slope it. I like to do it relative to the finished floor. I rarely get topos. So I wish CA would come up with a way that we could flip back and forth just with a variable or something, so this thing could be. So when you get the topo lines on your topo map right here, or topo plan, you can see the distance of the grade relative to the house and not so much to sea level. Because if I wanted to add another house out here, if I wanted to add a house out here and I had topo lines, I can decide how much lower that thing is than the other house without doing some mental gymnastics to locate it. Anyway, maybe Chief will come out with that in X6. But anyway, for right now, I like to set it at 0. And then I terrain, elevation data, elevation region, and then I put a region right here, and I give it a U. I give it a fill just so I can spot the darn thing. Angle crosshatch. I guess I use 10 usually, and give it a green because it's kind of like grass and it's transparent. And so now, if I want the whole terrain to be 4 foot lower, all I do is set this region at minus 48. Okay. And now it's dropped down. So anyway, that's essentially what I do. Now, what JPC wants to do is he wants to do he wants to see the topo lines in step form. So let's take a look at how we can do that. And this is what Glenn came up with. And if I could figure out what I'm doing, here we go. E. Bump. So I'm just going to draw a series of topo lines, okay? And these are just actually lines that right now. There's nothing to it, okay? 8, 4, and start doing this. And these are topo lines. And just imagine I imported this from a civil drawing, and I can then convert these into elevation lines and get a slope. Well, here's what Glenn says. He says, well, once you import those topo lines, which come in as lines from an ACAD drawing, I think what he would say is you take these 4 lines right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And he says turn them into terrain breaks. This is kind of clever, actually. Yeah, I don't get the transition. So terrain breaks. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this thing right here. This right here, I'm going to make this, I'm going to make this minus, no, I'm going to make that 36. Okay, now it's up higher, right? Now I'm going to take that Control-C, Control-V, and U instead of 36, I'm going to make it 24. Now watch what happens. I think I know what's going to happen. Yeah, look at that. You're starting to get these steps that JPC wanted. Now you take this piece right here, Control-C, Control-V, and you go U and change that to 12. Now you take this, Control-C, Control-V, and put this right here, and U, and make that 0. Control-C, Control-V, stick it right here. U, make that minus 12. And you can see what's happening. Control-C, Control-V, U, minus 24. And Control-C, Control-V, stick it right here. And this is probably going to be minus 36, right? Yeah, minus 36. So now I got 1 foot steps on the terrain. This is what JPC wanted to see. And that's really kind of cool. I mean, if you want to go to that trouble. Anyway, that was the Glenn Woodward solution to what JPC wanted to talk about. And I'm not sure if I'd ever thought about that, doing it that way. I guess there's another way of doing it, but this is really a pretty easy way of doing it. And now he's got all these steps. So essentially what we did is we imported a DXF file from our topo guy, our civil engineer, and he gave us these lines, and they just come in as lines. And now you have 2 options. You can convert these into elevation lines, so each one of them is an elevation, which would give you a gradual sloping topo. Or to do what JPC wants in the step footing is, instead of converting them into elevation lines, you convert them into terrain breaks. And what happens is this piece right here defines the elevation between the 2 terrain breaks. This defines the elevation between this terrain break and this terrain break. Now here's something. Suppose I stretch this out a bit. What happens now? Look what happens now. Check that out. Now it starts smoothing. Well, that might be kind of cool, huh? Let's look at it in vector view to see if we can. Oh, it is in vector view. How about there? There you go. See how it, and you can kind of see how it sort of transitions. Now this is one thing I don't really understand is, look at this anomaly right here. Why is that so funny right back in there? You see what I'm getting at? Right, and I'm getting off target right now, but see this? You can even see the topo lines. And so back to topo, what is it? The -4, -3, -2, -1. I know that these topo lines are, this line right here is -4 feet below the finished floor of this house. It's very easy to figure out. So if I have a house right here, if I take this stuff, Control C, Control V, and stick it right there, I know I probably want this finished floor to be at what, -36 U. See, I can easily -36. Oh, maybe I don't want it there. Whatever. You get the idea. It's wow. Isn't that weird? See, I don't really understand why. Suppose I stretch this thing out like this. Wait, suppose I took this, Control C, Control V, and stuck it right here. What do you think? It'd change it much? Check that out. See, it's almost like anyway. I mean, anyway, it just, you see what a drastic difference that made to the terrain. How about if I take this one, Control C, Control V, and stick it right there? You see how it's kind of modifying things a bit. Now here's something. Why am I getting this big dip right here? Elevation, interpolate tangent to edge. How about if I do this? I always look at. I'm always trying to figure this crap out. I can't. Suppose I move this over here just a little bit. And Doug explained it sometime, and it's like taking a piece of saran wrap or something and stretching it, and then putting points in it, and it sort of, I don't know. He had some kind of an explanation for it, but that's sort of. That's a pretty good little thing right there. So now you've sort of got, you can see JPC steps, but it sort of gradually feathers out, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, that's the Glenn Woodward step terrain video, and his solution was spurred on by a dumb question by JPC. We need these dumb questions, believe me. That's what sparks this kind of stuff. It's good stuff. Thanks, JPs, and of course, thanks, Glenn. I'm not sure if I would do this. It's a lot of work, or it could be a lot of work depending upon the topo, but if that's what JPC wants, that's how he can do it. That's the end.